The Farm Bureau is a rural institution, in effect the voice of the farmer, as much a fixture in small-town America as the local church or post office. Since its founding in the early 1900s, farmers have been supporting this non-profit association with their annual dues because over the years the Bureau sold them insurance when other companies would not and lobbied effectively for government subsidies, federal crop insurance, a stable income for family farmers. But today, with thousands of farmers facing financial ruin, a lot of family farmers say the Farm Bureau has done little to help them while they're sinking in debt. We found that people at the top of the Farm Bureau have been building a financial empire worth billions, some of it invested in the very agribusiness giants that many family farmers say are running them out of business. Last January, the American Farm Bureau Federation and its 50 state chapters held their annual convention in Houston, Texas.
Times are hard in farm country. In times like this, we farmers look to Farm Bureau for answers.
And no one doubts that the American Farm Bureau, founded some 80 years ago, has the political muscle, as the self-proclaimed voice of agriculture, to help farmers in need. It's the kind of power that politicians respect.
I am George W. Bush, and I want to welcome you all to the...
And George W. Bush has 5 million reasons to welcome the Farm Bureau because that's how many members it has nationwide. With that kind of support, Fortune magazine ranks the Farm Bureau as one of the most potent lobbying forces in Washington.
More people than ever before belong to the world's greatest farm organization.
To learn more about what the Farm Bureau does, we took a close-up look at the Iowa chapter, whose president is Ed Wiederstein. He also serves on the Farm Bureau's national board.
Our mission statement for Farm Bureau is to help family farms prosper and increase their quality of life.
Wiederstein's family raises livestock and grows corn and soybeans in Audubon, Iowa. The Iowa Farm Bureau has about 150,000 members, each of whom pays on average about $40 in annual dues. And many of them seem happy with their association, a fact that the Farm Bureau is eager to publicize in promotional videos like this one.
Farm Bureau became our family.
You wouldn't necessarily know it from this video or from Mr. Wiederstein, but the Farm Bureau's political agenda goes far beyond farming. Ken Cook runs the Environmental Working Group, which has battled the Farm Bureau over environmental issues.
Well, I guess when you hear Farm Bureau, you probably have some pretty romantic thoughts about rural areas. You think about the front porch and the rockers and the farmhouse. But the fact of the matter is, that's not what the Farm Bureau is about.
He says what the Farm Bureau does should concern all Americans, even those who have nothing to do with farming.
If you're concerned about civil rights, they opposed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They want to repeal it, cornerstone of civil rights law. If you think that the minimum wage is too low, they oppose raising it. If you think that we shouldn't be drilling offshore for oil, they want to drill offshore for oil. In most of these instances...
What does this have to do with farming?
Well, that's a very good question. It doesn't have anything to do in many cases with farming whatsoever.
And some family farmers say that shows the Farm Bureau cares less about them and more about its vast network of for-profit companies, including insurance, mutual funds, and banking.
If you take off the feed cap and you take off the overalls, it's a big business agenda.
That is the headquarters of the Iowa Farm Bureau, a tax-exempt, non-profit organization that nonetheless owns and operates a for-profit, $3.5 billion financial services company that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. That company, FB1 Financial Group, through its various holdings, invests millions in corporate America, including such diversified food giants as ConAgra, a so-called agribusiness. And while the Iowa Farm Bureau prospers, Iowa's family farmers like Chris Peterson are facing financial ruin because, they say, agribusinesses are squeezing them out.
Well, last year I had to take and remortgage everything I own, all my machinery, my farm, everything. Remortgage it, and I'm paying for it all over again. I already paid for it once.
Only a few years ago, Peterson was debt-free, but after 26 years of farming, he is now $200,000 in the hole and driving a school bus. His wife and kids also work jobs off the farm, and yet they're still falling behind. Now, are other family farmers suffering the way that you are?
Oh, you bet. There's thousands of us.
Peterson recalls the recent suicide of an Iowa farmer who left this note for his widow and children.
Everything is gone, wore out, or shot, just like me. All I ever wanted was to farm since I was a little kid, and especially this place. I know now that it's never going to happen. They finally won. This was left by a guy in southern Iowa that took his life last summer.
You know Chris Peterson?
I know who he is, yes.
He's about $200,000 in debt. He's just bust. What did you tell Chris Peterson?
Well, I can tell him I'm going through the same thing, too.
But unlike Peterson, Ed Wiederseen got help from stock options he received as a director and chairman of the Iowa Farm Bureau's for-profit business, FBL Financial. Well, come on, a couple of $100,000 from stock options when you cash.
That's right, and no doubt that helped me out. But I've got 4 kids in school, and that's part of it. I mean, that's the way it is.
Other directors of FBL Financial also got stock options, including the presidents of 13 state farm bureaus, options that were not available to the average family farmer. You're a Farm Bureau member. You're a member of the board in this county. What has the Farm Bureau done to help you and your family?
Basically nothing.
Like Peterson, these farmers say they too are struggling to make it with little help from the Farm Bureau.
The markets that we are forced to sell into have all been consolidated. Just play the game of Monopoly and watch how the money flows in to you when you get to the place where you control the game board. Well, the same thing is happening in agriculture today.
Agribusiness.
Agribusinesses.
Agribusiness mergers are